Brothers and sisters, when a great opportunity presents itself, you often hear people urging one another saying, "Act now. Don't delay. This is your moment to invest." Yet, how many times have we seen people ignore such advice, only to regret it later when the opportunity has passed? Consider real estate, for instance. Many times, people have been advised to purchase land near the masjid when prices were still affordable, perhaps around $40,000 or $50,000. Some took heed and secured their investments, while others hesitated. Now, those same plots of land are valued at $250,000 or even $300,000. And what do we hear from those who missed out? "If only I had bought back then, I wouldn't have to pay such a hefty price now." Or take Bitcoin as another example. 10 years ago, if someone had purchased just $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, today that small investment would be worth an astonishing $270,000. Again, we hear people saying, "If only I had invested back then." But the reality is that every major success story begins with recognizing the window of opportunity while it is still open. If you fail to act when the time is right, you will eventually find yourself paying a heavy price, whether in this world or the next. Brothers and sisters, this principle applies not only to financial opportunities, but also to our spiritual lives. Right now, we are in the month of Shaban. The blessed month of Ramadan is less than 1 month away, and this, right here, is our window of opportunity. If we wish to experience a truly transformative Ramadan, one that surpasses any we have had before, we must begin preparing now. If we wait until Ramadan arrives to start making changes, we will have missed the most crucial moment to set ourselves up for success. Subhanallah, our scholars have given us a beautiful analogy to understand this concept. They say that the month of Rajab is when we plant the seeds of righteousness. The month of Shaban is when we water those seeds, nourish them with sunlight, and provide them with good soil. And the month of Ramadan? That is when we reap the harvest. Now imagine a farmer who neglects to plant seeds in Rajab. Imagine that he also forgets to water or tend to his crops in Shaban. When Ramadan arrives, what does he expect to harvest? Nothing. And yet, this is precisely what many of us do. We ignore Rajab, we ignore Shaban, and then when Ramadan begins, we suddenly want to plant the seeds, water them, and harvest the results all in 1 month. Brothers and sisters, logically and practically, this is impossible. While we might be able to bring about some level of change in our lives during Ramadan, true transformation requires preparation. Ramadan is meant to be a period of spiritual renewal, a time when we reset our relationship with Allah, realign our intentions, and recommit ourselves to the path of righteousness. But for that renewal to be meaningful and lasting, it must begin before the month itself arrives. This is why we find that Prophet Muhammad took special measures to prepare for Ramadan. The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice. Because he was conditioning himself for Ramadan, he was priming his soul, preparing his body, and training his heart to make the most of the sacred month that was to come. But what do many of us do when Shaban arrives? Instead of increasing in our ibadah, worship, we find ourselves distracted. We acknowledge that Ramadan is approaching, but we tell ourselves, there's still time. I'll start reading the Qur'an when Ramadan gets here. And so, a day before Ramadan begins, or perhaps on the first night of Ramadan, you'll see people scrambling to pick up the Qur'an, trying to squeeze in as much as possible. But if we truly want to build a strong connection with the Qur'an in Ramadan, we must start today, not later. Another common distraction in Shaban is that many people focus on worldly preparations rather than spiritual ones. You'll find that some households are entirely preoccupied with meal preparations, ensuring they have all the ingredients for their favorite iftar dishes. Our sisters spend hours in the kitchen cooking and freezing food in advance. While there is nothing wrong with planning ahead so that more time can be dedicated to worship during Ramadan, the real danger is when Shaban is entirely consumed by such preparations, leaving no room for spiritual growth. So what can we do now today to ensure that we make the most of Ramadan when it arrives? Here are 5 essential steps to start immediately. 1. Eliminate backbiting and gossip. Brothers and sisters, backbiting and gossip are among the most destructive habits in our society. Engaging in these sins not only harms others but also poisons our own hearts. The person you are speaking about may not even be aware, yet your words are causing immense damage to your own soul. Instead, strive to cleanse your heart of ill feelings. If you need to express your frustrations about someone, confide in Allah, not in another person. Refrain from speaking ill of others, and if you find yourself in a gathering where backbiting is taking place, excuse yourself or redirect the conversation towards something positive. 2. Strengthen your salah. If we are inconsistent with our prayers today, how can we expect to be steadfast in Ramadan? If we are delaying Dhuhr until the last minutes before Asr, or rushing through our Fajr, or skipping Isha due to exhaustion, then Ramadan will not magically fix our habits overnight. Starting now, make it a goal to pray each salah on time. For the brothers, strive to attend the masjid as much as possible. For the sisters, create a dedicated space at home for your salah so that you establish a sense of discipline. 3. Let go of grudges. One of the greatest barriers to spiritual growth is holding on to resentment. The Prophet told us about a man who was given the glad tidings of Jannah, not because of excessive fasting or salah, but because his heart was free from hatred, jealousy, and malice toward others. If someone has wronged you, place your trust in Allah. Instead of allowing bitterness to consume you, say, Ya Allah, I leave this matter in your hands. Free yourself from the emotional burden of resentment, and you will feel a sense of peace unlike any other. 4. Reduce social media and screen time. We live in a time where endless scrolling has become an addiction. Hours slip away as we consume content that adds no value to our spiritual growth. If we do not start reducing our screen time now, then Ramadan will arrive, and we will find ourselves wasting precious moments on our devices instead of engaging in worship. Set limits for yourself. If necessary, delete certain apps or use features that track and restrict your screen time. 5. Fix your sleep schedule. Many people struggle to wake up for suhoor and fajr during Ramadan because their sleep patterns are completely disrupted. The solution? Start fixing your sleep schedule now. Sleep early, wake up early, and train yourself to rise before fajr so that when Ramadan arrives, you are already in the habit of maximizing those blessed pre-dawn hours. Conclusion. Brothers and sisters, Ramadan is not just another month, it is a divine gift. But in order to unlock its true blessings, we must prepare in advance. We ask Allah to grant us the ability to utilize Shaban effectively so that we may enter Ramadan in a state of spiritual strength. May Allah allow us to witness Ramadan, to be among those who are forgiven, and to emerge from it as better believers than we were before. Ameen. Many years to come in good health, strong faith, and with hearts full of sincerity and devotion. May He allow us to make the most of every moment in Ramadan, filling our days with fasting, our nights with prayer, and our hearts with the remembrance of Him. May He bless us with the ability to perform righteous deeds, increase in our acts of worship, and strengthen our connection with the Qur'an. Brothers and sisters, as we move forward, let us remember that the true essence of Ramadan is not just about abstaining from food and drink, but about developing taqwa consciousness and awareness of Allah in all aspects of our lives. It is a month of transformation, a month where we re-establish our commitment to our Creator, where we learn discipline, self-restraint, and the importance of gratitude. But if we enter Ramadan without preparation, without purifying our hearts and minds in Shaban, then we may find ourselves struggling rather than thriving in this blessed month. Maximizing our rewards in Shaban. To truly take advantage of Shaban, we need to engage in meaningful worship and righteous actions. Here are additional ways we can make the most of this precious time before Ramadan arrives. 1. Increase in seeking forgiveness, istighfar. One of the greatest barriers to our spiritual progress is our sins. When our hearts are weighed down by disobedience, they struggle to connect with Allah. This is why we should make sincere istighfar a daily habit, seeking Allah's forgiveness for our shortcomings. The Prophet Muhammad taught us that seeking forgiveness frequently brings ease and blessings into our lives. So let us make it a habit repeating Astaghfirullah throughout the day with sincerity, knowing that every time we do so, we are cleansing our hearts and drawing closer to Allah. 2. Renewing our intentions and making a Ramadan plan. A well-planned Ramadan is a successful Ramadan. Just as businesses prepare strategies before launching a big project, we must also create a roadmap for how we will spend our Ramadan. What are our spiritual goals? How much Qur'an do we aim to read? How will we ensure that our prayers are performed with khushu, humility, and focus? How will we balance work, family, and worship? If we go into Ramadan without a plan, we might find ourselves overwhelmed and unable to make the most of its blessings. 3. Strengthening our relationship with the Qur'an. The Qur'an was revealed in Ramadan, making it the month of the Qur'an. But we cannot expect to build a strong connection with it if we only start reading on the first night of Ramadan. We need to begin now in Shaban. Let's make a commitment to recite, reflect, and internalize the teachings of the Qur'an. Even if it's just a few verses a day, the key is consistency. A person who enters Ramadan already engaged with the Qur'an will find it easier to maintain that momentum throughout the month. 4. Fasting voluntarily to prepare for Ramadan. As mentioned earlier, Prophet Muhammad would fast frequently in Shaban. This not only brought immense reward but also served as a preparation for the fasting of Ramadan. It helped to train the body and mind, making the transition into Ramadan smoother. Fasting in Shaban is also a way to spiritually purify oneself, ensuring that we enter Ramadan in a state of heightened faith and devotion. 5. Giving charity generously. Ramadan is the month of generosity, and we should prepare for it by giving in Shaban. Charity purifies our wealth, softens our hearts, and removes our attachment to material possessions. If we start giving now, we develop the habit of generosity, making it easier to continue during Ramadan. Whether it is feeding the hungry, supporting Islamic institutions, or helping those in need, every act of charity brings blessings into our lives. Breaking free from distractions. One of the biggest obstacles we face in making the most of Ramadan is distractions, whether it's social media, entertainment, or unnecessary engagements. Shaban is the time to detox from these distractions and refocus on our spiritual growth. Start by gradually reducing screen time, replacing it with beneficial activities like reading Islamic books, listening to beneficial lectures, or spending time in dhikr, remembrance of Allah. If we continue wasting hours on distractions, then even when Ramadan arrives, we will struggle to shift our focus. But if we train ourselves now to prioritize beneficial activities, we will enter Ramadan with a mindset ready to worship Allah fully. Conclusion. Entering Ramadan prepared and purified. Brothers and sisters, Shaban is a golden opportunity that we cannot afford to waste. It is a time for preparation, purification, and drawing closer to Allah so that when Ramadan arrives, we are ready to embrace its blessings wholeheartedly. Let us take inspiration from Prophet Muhammad and use this time wisely. Let us seek forgiveness, increase in worship, reconnect with the Qur'an, purify our hearts, and minimize distractions. If we do so, we will enter Ramadan spiritually charged, fully prepared to make the most of every moment and emerge from it as better, stronger believers. May Allah grant us the ability to utilize the month of Shaban in the best manner. May He accept our efforts and reward us abundantly, and may He allow us to witness Ramadan with health, faith, and a heart eager to worship Him. Ameen.